Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Behind Enemy Lines Hockey Podcast. We're joining with Steve tonight again, as usual, and he's going to get us going with trivia question.
Well, it's good to be back again, Sheldon. Every time we do one of these things, this is it's a blast. And tonight we'll lead into trivia based on what our eventual topic of the day will be, and it'll be Jacob Dobish related. So we'll do a quick and simple one. Where did Jacob Dobish play his college hockey in the United States?
Mhm. Okay,
Simple and easy.
simple and easy. Even I knew this one, and we know how dumb I can be on some of them. So everybody should be
Well,
able to get this one.
there's levels of dumb, and then your background gives you a different level
Yeah,
of dumb that you're not at. So
yeah,
so
yeah,
let's call a spade here.
yeah. So tonight is a game night. It's about an hour away from game time, actually, against the Minnesota Wild tonight. Dobes is in, confirmed to start tonight. Gustafson for Minnesota. But I don't think anything much else has changed in the lineup as far as who's in and who's out. I think they're going with the same as the last game, correct?
Yeah, by the looks of it, the last three games we've had minimal changes, and for obvious reasons. We had a couple of stinkers where we gave away a couple of games against Buffalo, games that people said 4 point game, 4 point game. Not wrong. They were 4 point games.
Hmm.
But the last three games were three big wins. We defeated a very hot Colorado Avalanche team. They laid a proverbial South Oshawa ass kicking on us, and we returned the favor.
Hmm.
We got a touchdown in that game. We also beat a nice hot Vegas Golden Knights team, and we gave a little bit of North Tonawanda payback to the Sabres and beat them, and they've been on a streak. So
Hmm.
we're coming off a very good 3 game stand, and that's due in part to Lions all firing on all cylinders, but we have a red hot goalie, and it was good to see when I checked the Daily Faceoff today to dailyfaceoff.com, where you can get all your starting lineup needs, where it was confirmed that Dobish is in fact getting a fourth consecutive start and goal.
Hmm. And I think, touching on that topic, I think he's pretty much got to be the guy now. But with other players, if you look on listing as far as the injury bug goes, Texier is day to day, Newhook is month to month, and nothing's changed there. As we've talked about, he's not till after the Olympic break. He won't be back, so no surprise there. But what I want to touch quickly on related to this is Patrick Laine. He's officially, I guess, listed week to week, but it's no secret that he's been practicing full jersey, everything, and he's ready to go. But he's been sitting in the press box. Uh, I'm wondering if there's a chance for him to get back in. The team's playing so well without him. They're on a roll. They're keeping the lineups the same. What are we doing with him?
Yeah, that's probably the toughest nut to crack right now is what do you do with Patrick Laine? And he's a guy with skill when he wants to. And let's be honest, if it was not for Laine last year being so dynamic on the power play, we don't stand a chance to make the playoffs.
Mhm.
Yes, Monty had a career year and won us a lot of games. And yes, Captain Suzuki, did Captain Suzuki like things and help lead the team. But, we got an extra special effort out of Laine on the power play. And I think he had 15 of his 20 goals on the power play.
Mhm.
That ignited a fire within the guys.
Mhm.
You hate to sit that guy on the sideline with that kind of talent. Could power play unit 2 use a Patrick Laine all day long? But at what risk is his 3 or 4 minutes of power play time worth the 10 minutes you're taking away from somebody else who are playing very well at the moment?
Mhm.
And like you said, we got Texier in the lineup. Well, he's out day to day now, but he has been absolutely on fire since we got him.
Mhm.
And we acquired Philip Deneau. So roster spots are at a premium,
Mhm.
and where do you put him in practice? He's been practicing with Suzuki and Caulfield, taking alternate reps. It doesn't mean that that's where he's going to go. They could be using that as motivation to see if they can get him ready.
Mhm.
And we know how social media and the media works. If it's happening, it must be true. So does that make another general manager think that he's good and he's coming back and they want him,
Mhm.
driving up his value? Possibly. It could be just driving up his availability value, meaning we're willing to let him go.
Yeah. And I think, Doc's played pretty well too since he's come back. I'm not convinced, next week he's not going down with another injury, but while he's here, he plays well. He fits in well with on the top line with Suzuki and Caulfield. I'll give him credit for that, but I'm just worried that, what's the next injury?
Well, he's hurt everything but an earlobe, so maybe that might be it. Who knows? You
Yeah.
know, you can't say a guy is snake bitten, but maybe that guy needs to bubble wrap himself when he leaves the rink every day because
Mhm.
he's wearing himself down somewhere.
Yeah.
He might be the only guy that I know who turns over in his sleep and breaks a rib.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so predictions for tonight, if they play the same way they've played the last few games, which I don't see any reason why not. They're playing with confidence, they're playing with speed, they're doing well. I see no reason why Montreal can't win this one, like another 4-2, 5-3 kind of win.
Yeah, I'm with you here, and there's a couple other factors that go into my decision. Again, this is another redemption game in Minnesota. In front of Bill Guerin. You can't tell me that Lane Hudson and Cole Caulfield aren't just a slight bit of still offended that they weren't chosen. And there's talk, there was a defenseman go down and they picked somebody else and not Hudson. You
Mhm.
can't tell me that these guys aren't using this game as motivation in the Team USA general manager's building to
Mhm.
say, hey, look, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this could cost Bill Guerin a job in hockey. If USA doesn't win the gold medal and Minnesota doesn't win a Stanley Cup, this
Mhm.
guy might be out of a job
Yeah.
because of the bonehead decisions he continues to make.
Well, you got to look at Hudson. I mean, everybody talks about, he's not a big guy. He's not built for playoffs. He's not built for this kind of tournament. That's been the knock on him his whole career. And guess what? He's third in the NHL defenseman scoring. He's doing really well. I think he's the top U.S. scoring defenseman, if I'm not mistaken.
He is.
Cole Caulfield's leading all American players in goals, I believe. If he's not leading, he's top
He's
two for
well.
sure.
I think he's one or two goals ahead of Jason Robertson
Yeah.
and Alex DeBrincat. And if you look at, I hate to drag other players into the dogfight here, but if you look at the three highest scoring Americans, they are Robertson, DeBrincat, and Caulfield, and not one of them made the U.S.
Yeah.
roster. They
That
have they have 100, almost 100 goals, 93 goals, I think, between the three of them, and not one of them made Team
yeah.
USA.
It would
They're
be
good enough
sweet.
to score against NHL players who they're going to play,
Yeah.
just wearing different jerseys on
Yeah.
a nightly basis and do well,
Yeah.
but not good enough to play at least one of them on this team. It's
There would
it's
be
it's
nothing
mind boggling.
sweeter tonight than Caulfield getting a hat trick and giving
Another one,
pointing up
yeah,
at the press box to Guerin as he's skating by, saying, "Hey, you know what I mean? You could have picked me and you didn't eat it,
yeah,
right?"
and you'd love to see him rip off the Montreal jersey and sport a Canada jersey just for shits and giggles, but that might be a little bit of fantasy dreaming here.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good for sure if it happened. Uh,
Although Hudson does have Canadian roots in his family, he
yeah,
could make a change. So you never know. That could happen.
yeah, it could. I don't see it happening. It'd be interesting for sure, but yeah, it would be a news flash for sure.
Yeah, and no surprises with the Minnesota lineup. One small note in case anybody's keeping score at home. There has been a lot of talk about their rookie goalie Jesper Wallstedt, who could be on the trade block. He
Mm.
is not dressed tonight.
Mm.
It has nothing to do with an impending trade.
Oh.
They have recalled Cal Peterson from the minors
Mm.
to be an emergency backup goalie. It's because the home game. You know, rumor has it that Wallstud is suffering from habsophobia. So it's the failure of losing to the Habs. So
Yeah.
he's probably out for that reason, not because he's being traded to us or any other team.
Mm.
A couple of days before the Olympic freeze. But yeah, that's the only real big change in Minnesota.
Okay, well, that's perfect timing because that leads us in today's topic. Changing of the guard. I know it's no secret to anybody what Montembeau's last week or two has been, between the pipes, which hasn't been good.
Oh,
Um,
he's been weaker too.
yeah. So, changing of the guard, it looks like Dobes is going to get the bulk of the work now for the rest of the year. You and I, not to brag, but we've called this month ago or longer that, Sammy's time is done. He's pretty much had all the chances. Well, he's had more chances than he should have got. And I don't see how they don't ride Dobes now the rest of the year. I don't see him playing every single game, but, I see him playing 90% of the games.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this back in, one of the first three episodes, and we started talking about what do we expect, and again, we came off a year in which Monty gave us quality to get us into the playoffs. We touched base on that earlier tonight. But reality was he played above his potential. We rode him hard, and this year he hasn't lived up to that. And we said, are we playing Dobis just on the second game of a back to back? Is he going to see any back to backs? What's his target number? And we said he's probably in that 25 to 28 game window. That's what we predicted based on what Marty would do. And we're 2 games away from the Olympic break, and right now he's played 26 games.
Mm-hmm.
So he's where most people would have thought his ceiling was going to be, and we're still going to have 30 games left.
Yeah.
So is he going to play 25 of those games? Probably not. I see him playing 20 of those games. He has earned it. Here's a guy that he's won 8 of his last 9 starts. What are we waiting for?
Yeah. Well,
Right?
his record right now, 18 wins, 5 losses, 3 overtime losses, which those 3 overtime losses could have just as easily been wins as well. So, um, if you look at he's got a 2.92 goals against average, which I think is good. I think anything below 3 is good. His save percentage is 0.893. I'd like to see that bumped up over 900, to be honest with you, for a little bit better numbers. But I think part of that is the sporadic use he's been, maybe in his head, he doesn't know whether he's in, doesn't know whether he's out, and he can't get into a groove, can't get into a rhythm. I think if he gets into a rhythm and he knows he's playing more games, I think those numbers will bump up a little bit.
Okay, so let's factor in one small thing. If you took the 4 wins that Jacob Fowler got and you said, okay, we would have gave those to Dobish and he got those 4 wins, he'd
Mhm.
be third in the NHL in wins. That would give him 22. If we just took those same 4 wins that Fowler got and gave them to Dobish, he'd be third in the NHL in wins. Vasilevsky has 25, and Vamelka in Utah has 25. He would be tied with Swayman with 22 wins. And again, we have to remember, people, he's still considered a rookie.
Yeah.
If he goes on a bender, does he then enter the conversation more so than a Matthew Schaefer or Beckett Seneke or Ivan Demidov? Do
Mhm.
we then have him in the mix as a potential rookie of the year? The downfall to that is Kapanen's playing well. We've got 3 rookies really doing well. The problem is there are 3 rookies in the top 6. They're all in the same team, so they're
Mhm.
going to take some of the Eastern U.S. Canadian writers. They're gonna divide part of their vote as to who got you where.
Mhm.
But if Dobish plays well down the stretch, we're gonna succeed based on his statistical numbers. And I agree. Would I like to see his save percentage above 900? Yeah. But do I care? No, because he's got 18 wins, 5 losses, and 3 overtimes. So
Mhm.
he's got points in 21 of 26 games. He can have a 5.0 goals against average for all I care.
Yeah.
He can have a save percentage of 70. As long as he's got way more wins than losses right now,
Yeah.
that's what gets us into the playoffs. He could have a 930 save percentage and we miss the playoffs. What good does that do?
Mhm.
Win his hockey games, and he's doing so. There was some coke snorting goalie in Edmonton, Grant Fuhrer, that made a living being a subpar goalie because
Mhm.
I don't think he was very good because the team in
Yeah.
front of him just scored more goals than the other team,
Yeah.
more nights than they had to. That works.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I've had the conversation with many people. We talk about, the greatest goalies that ever played, and I hear his name brought up. I'm like, Grant Fuhr was not a great, he was a good goalie, made it to the NHL, more games in the NHL than you and I played combined, but you know what I mean? When you had Wayne Gretzky on that team and he was averaging just about 3 points a game before the first puck was dropped, Edmonton was already up 2 or 3 to nothing. So he just had
Yeah,
to let in less goals than the guy at the other end of the ice. That's all that
yeah.
boiled down to.
And if that's what Dobish is and Dobish does, I'm okay with that. He's
Mhm.
winning hockey games
Yeah.
again. He's gotten points in 21 of 26 games, and you can't ask for more than that. That's a phenomenal
Yeah.
record,
Yeah.
right? And if you look at, we're talking about Dobish. Let's just dig into a little bit. He's a fifth round draft pick in 2020. So
Mhm.
not a guy that was uh, high on the radar. He wasn't one of the top five goalies taken. There was no golden ticket attached to his name. He debuted against the Florida Panthers in a 4-0 win.
Mhm.
He's only the fourth Montreal goalie to have a shutout in his debut. And right now in 2 years he's 25-9-6.
Wow.
And if you took those numbers and added 10% each of the way and gave him another 3 wins and another 2 losses, another overtime loss, those are numbers that would rival Vasilevsky at the end of the year,
Mhm.
based on a season of work.
Yeah.
And the kid's a rookie,
Yeah.
right? And let's dig back a little bit deeper. He came from, and I will tip off those that are following along. He played his college hockey at Ohio State University. He went 21, 12, and 2 in his first year, 21, 16, and 3 in his second year. Then he went to Laval and was 24, 18, and 6.
Mhm.
Every single year he played, he had a goals against average under 3 and a save percentage right around the 900. So he is doing the same thing at his
Mhm.
third high level of hockey.
Yeah.
I think this is the changing of the guard. At
Mhm.
least for the rest of this year, it is. I
Mhm.
don't think we need to worry. I think he becomes our ride or die.
Yeah. And you bring up them stats of, college hockey, American Hockey League. Those numbers have been pretty consistent, even in the NHL, very similar numbers. So it's transitioning from level to level as he's going up. It's not like he's fading off as the skill level gets higher. He's maintaining. And like I said before, I think it's his sporadic use that's holding him back. And don't get me wrong, I agree with you. Regardless of what his personal stats are, the wins are what is most important. But I just think he gets more consistent use, more reps, more routine. I just see those personal stats going up, which only benefits us.
Yeah, and you're right. And I mean, I quickly read through the numbers, and you can put up a graphic with his career numbers,
Mhm.
so people can see it. But when you take what he's done at Ohio State University, what he's done in Laval, and his 2 years in Montreal, his
Mhm.
combined record right now is 91 wins, 55 losses, and 17 overtime or shootout losses.
Mhm.
That is absolutely incredible. That means he is getting points in 3 of every 4 games.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't tell you that he's battle tested and ready to go at 24 years of age, I don't know what else he has to do.
Mhm.
Bad joke here, but cash the check. This guy's been money in the bank.
Mhm. Yeah. So right now, let's see. I don't know how far back you want to go, but even like he played in the USHL with Omaha
With the
back
Lancers.
in 2019 and 2020, he still had those good numbers. He had a goals against averages in 2021 of 2.48, save percentage over 9. So, like again, his numbers are translating. They're staying uh even keel every level he goes up. So he's not declining. His numbers aren't declining as the skill level goes up. He's maintaining his
Yeah,
stuff, which leads me to
he's
believe he's got the quality and he's got the mechanics and all that to be a good NHL goalie.
Yeah, and he's a big kid with lots of athleticism, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can look at a guy, and we know whether it was his style or his reaction time. Dominic Hasek made a living
Mhm.
flopping around a goal crease without a style.
Yeah.
You know, when Hasek was in his prime, he's competing with the likes of, for the greatest of all time, with Patrick Waugh and Marty Brodeur.
Mhm.
And usually when you talk about the greatest goalies of all time, those three names will come up because they put up stellar numbers all at the same time. We were absolutely blessed as hockey fans to witness those three guys in their prime
Mhm.
competing against each other. Dobish is a big kid. He's 6'4".
Mm,
and his athleticism is good. Does he get caught out of position? I'm not going to tell you that he doesn't. He does. But he's got such athleticism and such a big frame that when he recovers, he's back in position. He
yeah,
gives up very few terrible, terrible goals, but every goalie does.
yeah,
But it's not what happens when you give up the bad goal, it's how do you rebound.
yeah,
And again, his numbers are very consistent. So he's a student of the game. He stays focused, he stays composed, he's adapted well, because you don't go from college hockey right to the American Hockey League to the NHL in such a small period of time and not put up decent numbers. His numbers have been consistent
yeah,
across the board.
yeah. One thing you mentioned too, I notice again, I'm by no means a goalie guru. I'm by no means, you know what I mean? I'm just a average Joe fan hack who observes things. And you talk about making the fantastic save or making the really brutal, or sorry, allowing the really brutal goal. If you do a comparison of most of the goalies, Dobish's fantastic saves far outweigh his brutal goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like you say, everybody gives them up and everybody makes them. But Dobesh is definitely on the higher side of that fantastic save as opposed to giving up a goal that he probably should have had. So I think there's a
Yeah.
bonus there in that too.
Yeah, he was dynamite against Colorado, right? And that's a team that nobody can take for granted. They've got, in my opinion, they've got good goaltending. They don't have great goaltending,
Mhm,
but they have such a dynamic first three lines that they can score at will most nights.
mhm,
And we came into Colorado, and they laid a 7-2 thumping on us. That's not a we weren't surprised when that happened.
mhm.
I think we were surprised that it was easily 7-2. But when we needed Dobish to stand in there and play a game, he stood in there and played a game.
Yeah.
He didn't have to steal it, but he played well enough to keep us in it and made big saves early that fueled an attack that allowed us to win by a few goals.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you look, let's just take a real quick look, sort of, I don't want to get off topic too much. If we take a quick look at the standings and what tonight's game might mean, um, we've played 56 games, which is one more than Buffalo. We're 2 points up on them. And I mean, Buffalo, we talked a little bit before we went on air here about Buffalo and what we think their actual projection is. Um, all these games now before the break are going to be really important because there's such a um, tight grouping of points for the teams. Um, I never seen Buffalo doing this.
No, I don't think anybody would have guessed. I mean, that dumpster fire would be put out for a while.
Mhm,
But it just goes to show that any good team can get on a roll.
mhm,
And when you get on a roll and you don't change a bunch of things,
mhm,
people buy in. Now let's talk quickly about Buffalo. Alex Tuck has still said he doesn't want to return. Here's a
mhm,
team now battling for the top in the division, top in the conference, and he's still saying he doesn't want to stick around. So
mhm,
there's something still going on there and in that dressing room where it makes people want to leave.
mhm. It's
So,
Buffalo.
because it's Buffalo. So, like anything else, I think, there's probably a hot ember still there. It's going to end up with a bag of trash thrown on it. And I think that they will make the playoffs, but they'll fizzle out and barely get in as a wild card. That's my, sort of hot take at this point with 25 games left to go in the season.
Well, right now they're in the last wild card spot with 67 points. Columbus is 6 points behind them, 61 points. So Columbus would have to make up 6 points to catch them. Um, I don't want to say there's not enough time left, obviously, because anything can happen. But I just, and you said it earlier, like, when does Buffalo's bubble burst? Like, what's the reality here?
Right. And we got the same thing, right? Because right now, like you say, we're 1 point up on them, but we're 1 point behind Detroit.
Mhm,
If you want to be fantasy favorites and say that Montreal wins tonight, we jump Detroit in the standings with the same number of games played,
mhm.
right?
Detroit playing
Um,
tonight? Do you know? I don't think they
I
are.
haven't looked. I haven't looked that far into the schedule.
Oh yeah, they're playing Colorado tonight at
They're,
nine
they're
o'clock.
playing. Yeah, they're playing Colorado. So they got shut out by Colorado the other night, 5-0. So
Mhm.
this is a return game. But right now it's right. The top 8 teams in the conference are starting to separate to be the top 8 teams. Couple of surprises. I don't think anybody would have had Pittsburgh there because
Mhm.
they've been playing lights out hockey, and I don't think anyone would have had Buffalo there.
Yeah. Old
People
man
would have had
Sydney. Hey, old man Sydney's playing like he's 28, not 38.
Oh, he has got a fountain of youth into him. I mean, he's the kind of guy. He's from the East Coast, Sydney. I don't think you can, and he just says, "Hold my
Yeah.
beer," and he gets her done.
Yeah.
Um, and good for him because this might be the year that he's got the 2 worst line mates that he's ever played with.
Yeah.
Yet he's still carrying the load, and he's still clipping along at that point per game, which is impressive at his age with the shit that he's playing with.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
But you give him credit because as Sidney Crosby goes, the Penguins go.
yeah. So yeah, I know we got off topic a little bit there, but I just thought it was important for the discussion. Basically, it does relate to the goaltending because what I wanted to bring up is what would our difference be like if Sammy hadn't have gotten all these chances that again, this is professional hockey. To me, I don't think he deserved them. I'm not sure why they gave them to him. I don't know if it's a Homer thing, a French Canadian thing, or whatever it is. I don't know. But if they had played Dobish more, you know,
Would we be further ahead in the standings? And
are we up there with Tampa, right?
it's a woulda, coulda, shoulda. And
Yeah.
at some point, I mean, you go back and let's talk about Montreal goalies. At one point, we had Carey Price as a young kid, who lost. He came in out of junior hockey from Tri City and went right to Laval, won a Calder Cup, and he was supposed to be the guy. Then he has a subpar start to the NHL. And
Mhm.
then Halak takes over, and people are calling for Price to be traded.
Yeah.
But Montreal finally just said, "Here,
Oh, excuse me.
it's must be your allergies to that picture
Mhm.
behind you."
Yeah.
Um, they finally just said, "Here, it's your team. Go with it," and
Yeah.
he took it and ran. I think we could get the same thing out of Dobish. I mean,
Mhm.
he's not a kid. He's not 18 and 19 years old. He's played college hockey. He's lived away. He's lived away from home from mom and dad for quite some time. He
Yeah.
knows what this is all about.
Yeah.
So could this be the time now? We have a
Mhm.
game tonight. We have one more game against Winnipeg before the Olympic break. I don't care what the result of tonight's game is. I think you go back to him again in the last game because you're going to give him a rest,
Yeah.
right? Disappointed that he didn't make the Czechia roster. I thought for sure he was going to be the guy included on an Olympic roster.
Mhm.
So he's going to get 2 weeks of a break. I think you just ride him, and I don't think you let Montembeau see skates unless he rents him at an arena to go public skating.
Yeah. So with the goaltending, and I think we're both on the same page, obviously, that Dobesh has to be the main guy now. Whether Monty plays 5 games, 10 games, whatever for the rest of the year. I really wouldn't want him playing any more than 10, to be honest with you. I like the number of 5 better to, give Dobesh a rest when needed on back-to-backs that are still going to come even after the Olympic break.
Yeah,
But I, I I guess if you watch all the experts, they talk about the 2 glaring holes in Montreal, obviously being goaltending and another top 6 forward. Everybody talks about a 2C, whatever, but I think the more glaring hole is a winger for the top line right now. I think Pannon's playing lights out, and you heard me. I called it from the beginning of the year that he should be the 2C, but um I don't see the goaltending as being the problem now. If they finally wised up and they're gonna play Dobesh.
I mean, my thought is this: we need some kind of break somewhere.
Mhm.
And what does that mean? We need a backup goalie to get hot as well. And if it's Monty, it's Monty. Like, let's be honest, we come back out of the Olympic break and Monty gets a start, which he's going to eventually, and he wins and gets a shutout. I'm okay going back to him again. You give your just desserts
Mhm.
where they are. But I don't think he's the guy that we need as a full-time backup. I think we could have a chance to upgrade that. You upgrade that.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that Shesterkin is a guy you trade for. Maybe he becomes available and he's in play and you could do that. We talked about Jesper Wallstedt from Minnesota, who rookie off to a great start. There's a chance that Minnesota trades him.
Mhm.
Do, do we trade Fowler? Do you trade Fowler to get a Wallstedt and you run those two guys? I don't think that it's not probably the best thing, but right now, you go with battle tested and proven, and Wallsted's been putting up good numbers in Minnesota.
Mhm.
But I think if you have a chance to upgrade Monty, you upgrade Monty and you ship him off to Uzbekistan with some Uggs boots on and say best of luck to you. And
Mhm.
hopefully he finds a beer league team to play on. It wouldn't bother me any. This is
Yeah,
business. And again, I don't care. It's about that logo, that
yeah,
that that 110-year logo that says we are a team that needs to win, and that's just what it is.
yeah. So, and basically what I want to get in my is, so if we have Dobesh and he's on a good number right now, he's at 965, I think, for this year and next year, 965,000, I think. Yeah, 965 this year, 965 next year. Is he the guy? And I think he is. I think he's playing well enough right now to take the starting job from now, because I don't see Fowler playing next year. Um, he may come up, maybe he's the backup for Dobesh next year and then starts the year after. But I see 27 as Fowler's year. And I see Dobesh as the guy that's going to bridge that gap to get him there.
But if Dobish is playing well now and next year and the year after, I think maybe you have a problem and one guy has to go
Mhm.
at that point. Again, you're right. He's on, and let's be honest, in this day and age, guys write their own ticket for two reasons.
Mhm.
One, they statistically put up numbers that contributes to the end result.
Mhm.
Two, they come in at a salary cap number that says I want to be here.
Mhm.
And we'll do an episode, because this will tie in. We'll do an episode when we get into the Olympic break about the culture change in Montreal. What caused it? When did it start? And how do we embrace it, move forward? Because you've got a guy like Garber Jackeye that's already said he's not worried about signing for big money. He just wants to be here.
Yeah.
If Dobish was to say, look, you sign me to 3 years, $3 million a year. Here's a guy who wants to be here. I'm not saying that that's the number he's going to come in at,
Mhm.
but if he's getting a raise from 965,000 and he comes in at 2.5 or 3.5 million,
Mhm.
those are very, very, very friendly numbers.
Yeah.
And if you can play 35 or 40 games for $3 million, sign me up,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
right?
deal we'd take all day long.
You take that deal all day long, and
Yeah.
and I firmly believe he wants to be here. He knows this group has got a culture, it's got a rhythm. They're all young. They want to go through this. And again, we'll deviate for a minute. Caulfield up there in league and goals. Suzuki's cracked the top 10 in forward points. Hudson, just he's like I think 3 or 4 points shy of McCarr for the defenseman lead. We've got all the talent in all the right places. Now we just need a few of the parts to say, yes, I want to be there.
Mhm.
Yes, I don't need to be greedy. I want to be here.
Mhm.
That allows us to add the next Noah Dobson to this, or to give the Demidov his 5 million or 7 million or whatever his number is going to come in at, and still be under the cap.
Mhm.
So he does something like that, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And And I think the money management or the cap management is an important part too. As like right now, we're only at I think we got 100,000, 102,000 in cap space. But I mean, we got Line A's 8.7 coming off next year. While Sammy Blaze 700,000. There's a few guys coming off that are really
Valeno's
gonna.
900,000 or 995,000. He'll
Yeah.
come off as well. It doesn't mean that he won't come back for that. But, Doc would be a free agent if we decided to bring him back. If he stayed healthy for the rest of the year and did well enough in the playoffs, do you bring him back at, the same kind of money and just say, look, prove you're
Well,
worth more?
he's at
You know,
3.3 right now, and I would sign him for half of that. You know what I mean? Like you
I,
can
I
have all the
think you,
potential,
I
you
think
can
you
have
can.
all the skill in the world, but if you're not playing, I don't care why you're not playing, but if you're not playing, you're not worth the money.
Yeah, I think a player like that fits in that $3 million range all day. I don't think he gets a raise. I don't think we need to reduce them. You could say, well, we'll sign you to a base deal of 2.2 and we'll give you incentives based on if you're healthy.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
give you a per game per diem,
yeah,
sort of like going on the road and working for the union.
yeah.
But you do this and you can get incentive bonuses to
Mhm.
get them up there and we can still be cap compliant. He has some skill and again, he was one of the reasons he set up the go ahead goal the other day. Gave a puck away, took a bad penalty late in the game, but he set up, stripped the defense with the puck, and made a beautiful play. He's got some skill. He's got some size.
Yeah, and I'm never doubting that. He's got all the skill in the world. My concern is,
He's
handle with care, caution, all that stuff, the broken glass. That's what scares me.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's part of the game for
Mhm.
him. When you're in the ER more than you're on the ice, that's a problem, right?
Mhm.
I mean, he's damaged goods. If we let him go, somebody else will sign him. I know that for a fact. Does that mean we should be afraid to lose him? Not at all,
Mhm. Well, I think
right?
it just sets us up good at the trade deadline. Lots of
Because here's the next thing that happens. We are now February the 1st. And for those that don't really follow a lot of this at home, we're going into an Olympic break, but just because the NHL season is tentatively put on hold, it doesn't mean US college hockey isn't on hold.
Mhm.
They will play their games, which means their season is going to progress. And we have Michael Hage that could
Mhm.
really join this roster if something should go south for him at Michigan.
Yeah.
And right now they're one of the top four teams in the country. If they make it to the Frozen Four, I mean, he's going to have an extended year. But if anything should happen and they lose,
Mhm.
here's a guy who could join our roster.
Yeah.
Do you play him the 10 games and then send him down? But what if he gets here and he's on fire?
Yeah.
Then we're sitting another guy. So a guy like Kirby Doc
Yeah.
could be on borrowed time just because
Mhm.
there's extended youth pushing the limit behind him.
Yeah. And before we get into our final thoughts, it just reinforces what you and I have talked about. We've talked about this for months about too many players, not enough spots. Uh, you and I both feel there's a major trade coming of, a 3-for-1 kind of thing, 4-for-2, or even two trades packaging up with two different teams to, ship out four guys, get one or two back. I mean, in an ideal world, that's obviously how we want to do it. Send out two or three to get our top six guy, whether it be a winger or if you're still on the we need a 2C bandwagon, whatever. I'm not so much concerned about goaltending if Dobes plays the bulk of the remaining of the games, but I don't see it sitting as it is. And when you bring up a very valid point of Michael Hage coming, I've even heard, spitballing out of the back idea that they're going to buy out Zorowski's remaining 2 years in the KHL and bring him in too. I mean, does that happen? I don't know, but there's discussion about it. So
Yeah,
there's
they've
guys
they've kicked the
coming. We need to
tires.
make room.
Yeah, they kicked the tires on it because we had success with Demidov.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that they buy out 2 years. I think they probably won't get Zorowski till this time next year, if I'm a
Yeah,
betting man.
that's what
You
I
know,
think too.
and if Montreal's smart, they don't force the hand because the other contracts they have. And when you can bridge your talent coming in, you bridge the entry level deal,
Mhm.
right? We got lucky with a Dobesh. Let's be honest, at his money and what he's doing for us, he
Yeah.
has allowed us to be successful, cap compliant, and adjusting the game plan moving forward.
Mhm.
Right? Those are surprises we need. And I think that becomes the backbone of what you want. I think Dobish is the guy for the next 3 years. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Whether Fowler's ready, but it doesn't mean that we call Fowler up and he's now the guy and he has to play 60 games. I think he's going to be the backup. And if he doesn't like it, he can pound salt like Monty. The two of them can go hang around, sing kumbaya in their mom's basement, and reminisce about what could have been. But at the end of the day, we need to have some level of compete. And right now, our best level of compete is with Jacob Dobish.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
um, and then we adjust the parts. And again, I'll deviate a little bit. I don't think we need a 2C. I'm with you. When you look at this, if healthy remains healthy, we
Mhm.
have Suzuki as one, Kapanen as two. Then you jump in, you have, and in no particular order, you have Deneau that's on the roster, you have Evans on the roster, you have Doc that can play center. So we
Mhm.
have five centermen,
Yeah.
right? Does one of them have to play the winger? Does two of them have to play the wing? Possibly. You ride where you got to ride, and you
Mhm.
know if you can put two of them on a line and they're your third or fourth line, then that means you've got two guys that can take a draw, one on the left side, one on the right side.
Yeah.
It sets us up, but
Mhm.
I don't think the center position becomes our issue. Kapanen has proven that he can play quality minutes. He's killing penalties. He's getting some power play two time. So I think he is de facto number two. I don't think we have to deviate from that. But if the next best guy available on the trade board happens to fall in our lap and he's a centerman, I don't think you can't say no. Sorry, we
Yeah.
don't need a 2C now.
Yeah.
You take it, and if you have to bump that guy down to a 3C and Captain play 3C, then that's what you do.
Or you put, or you grab that guy and you put him on the wing when you grab him,
yeah,
right? There's,
or you move Captain into the wing. I
yeah.
think we have, maybe you move Captain into the wing on the second line and you put Demidov up on the first line. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, you can't tell me that Slavkovsky and Captain with another good centerman wouldn't be as effective,
Mhm.
right?
Like a
You
Robertson.
got, yeah, you got to strike where you got to strike, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, but it starts in the back end with stability. I'm looking for a good game from Mr. Dobes again tonight because I
Yeah.
think he brings a calming presence when he
Yeah.
plays.
Okay. Final thoughts. My final thoughts on the goaltending situation is it's not as dire as I once believed it was, only because, well, I'm going to qualify the statement that if they're going to go with Dobish the majority of the games, I'm okay with that. The problem I have is if they get the stupid idea in their head that they're going to start playing Sammy, Sammy plays a good game. Oh, well, let's just keep playing him. And you know what I mean? His chances are done. I think this is his last year as the starter in Montreal. He's either going to be traded at the deadline next year, he's going to be sent down to the American Hockey League because I just don't see him as even being the backup guy. I mean, he's 3.1 million for the next 2 years. I just don't see Sammy in Montreal very much longer. And
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. I don't see him there much longer because I think, like anything else, everything good comes to an end at some point.
mhm,
Do I want that to happen? No, I don't want it to happen. But the reality is, you ride the highs of highs when you can, and you try and get through the lows of lows. We got through the lows of lows with Sammy.
mhm,
And I think at this point now we're at the end of our rope with how much he can really benefit us and how much we can expect out of him moving forward. I
mhm,
don't like it any more than the next guy, but the hard reality is someone's got to be there.
yeah,
And does that mean it's Monty? Again, you make a trade. Could he go the other way? Would a team take him on as a third guy just to give some kind of stability should they need it come a playoff run? Does Edmonton look at him and say, well, we've got Ingram and we've got Jari, but Monty as a third guy could help us if one guy gets hurt?
mhm,
Maybe because they might be in a bit of a more dire situation than somebody else. But I think he's played his last meaningful opportunities in Montreal.
yeah. And I agree. I think there's value for him somewhere else. I just don't think there's value for him in Montreal. Like I mean, like you mentioned Edmonton. I guess Jari's been shit in the bed lately too, and Edmonton's worried about their goaltending again. So there always gets to be a goaltender's market. I just don't see him being here in Montreal anymore.
No, and again, we claimed him off of waivers. It was a good pickup when we needed him. He
Mhm,
rode through some bad times. He got us into the playoffs last year, but his time came to an end, and we need to move on.
mhm. Okay, so that'll wrap up the discussion on tonight's episode, and we're going to see who was paying attention to the episode tonight with our trivia answer.
Yes, Mr. Jobish, as we've said, he did play at the Ohio State University.
Mhm.
So if you didn't catch the 14 clues prior to, Ohio State University is tonight's answer.
Yeah. Played from 2021, 22, and 22, 23. Excellent. Thanks for that trivia question, Steve. So that'll wrap up tonight's episode of Changing of the Guard on Behind Enemy Lines, where we pretty much, as the perfect GMs that we are, solved Montreal's goaltending problems. But we just want to say thanks for watching. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. And hopefully you'll join us again for our next episode. And as Steve always says,
Keep your stick on the ice.